Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols. I'm here to bring you Nicholsworth, and today I thought I'd give you an update on the translations that I've read. I've made this video before, but since then I've read a few more. So let's start with the first translation I ever read, and that was the NIV. Now this is the updated NIV 2011. I've not read the update yet, but I read the NIV 1984, and that's what led me to Jesus, with a Life Application Study Bible translated in the NIV. It was revolutionary and transformational for me. I've also read the NASB 2020. This is actually a slate gray Schuyler Quintel. These are out of print, can't get those anymore. I think they may be available in full yet, but the standard yet, they're gone. I like this translation. I actually preached out of it for a year. It is a little bit clunky, like people say, but actually I didn't have a whole lot of trouble with it. Another translation that I've read is the NLT. Now I've actually read the NLT plus a couple of its updates, and this is a really smooth read. The one thing I don't like about it is the poetry kind of gets a little weird here and there, and I really enjoy the poetry of the Bible, so I wanted to read poetically. It's not hard to understand in this, but sometimes it does seem almost kind of a little unrealistic. And then the LSB. Now I will tell you this, the LSB is amazing in the poetry. I absolutely love this translation. I do have a couple little issues with it in the New Testament. It does seem to kind of be biased toward John MacArthur's theology, but overall, this is a pretty good read. The BSB. I will tell you, the BSB is an outstanding read. I absolutely love this. I will actually put all my I've read this translation videos in the description, but the BSB, the one area where the BSB is awesome is its note system. I like the translation. The poetry is pretty good in this one. Honestly, for a more dynamic equivalent translation, this thing really handles the poetry well, so I enjoyed reading this. The Douay-Rheims. This one's got a bunch of little strange spots in it, but overall this is a good read. I love being able to read from a different source other than the Textus Receptus or from the critical apparatus or even from the majority text, which a majority text translation is next on my list to read after I read the RSV. So I've read the Douay-Rheims. This was a good experience. I read the NRSV. This is probably my least favorite translation that I've read. And even with the update now with the NRSV UE, it seems to be even a little less satisfying. It seems to be going a little bit more to the liberal side of the translation, and that's something that I really like to stay away from. Now, with the next translation that I've read, that's the NASB 2020. I absolutely love this. I've read all of the Lockman family translations except for the NASB 77, and I'm really looking forward to reading that one eventually as well. Love the NASB 2020. It is probably my favorite of all of the Lockman translations so far. This is the CSB, and I have read this one. I have not read the 2020 update. I've only read the 2017, but I've actually read this one a couple of times. It's an optimal equivalent. I really enjoyed reading this one because it does handle the poetry better than some of your dynamic equivalents. It's still not quite as good as a formal equivalent like a King James, a New King James, or something like that, or ESV, but it does a pretty good job handling the poetry, and this is a really pleasant and smooth read. The King James. You can't say you've read the Bible unless you've read the King James. This is actually a very interesting version of the King James. This is a Names of God King James Bible. So they actually insert the names of God next to the words here. So this bad boy's out of print. Can't find this anymore. It's got the Hebrew words on the cover. Really slick. The New King James. This is my favorite translation. I absolutely love the New King James. It gives you that perfect balance between the King James and the New King James, because one thing about the King James is it is a little difficult to read some of those archaic words, but the poetry in this is absolutely beautiful. You don't lose any of the beauty of the poetry in the New King James Version of the Bible. It's also based on the Textus Receptus for those of you that don't like the critical apparatus. The critical apparatus is only used for comparison purposes on this one, but the Textus Receptus is its based manuscript. So that's something you may want to keep in mind. My second favorite translation coming up is the ESV. I've actually read the ESV and all of its updates from 2001 all the way to the 2016. I've read this over and over. This is actually another out-of-print Bible, a pastor's Bible in genuine leather. It has the pastoral helps, really sharp. And I've also read the NET. Now the NET is not a translation I'd probably go back to for reading purposes, but the note system is amazing. And as you can tell, this is a second edition put out by Bible.org. This is before Thomas Nelson got a hold of the NET, and this was before they even expanded some of their notes. The layout looks completely different, so this is a pretty interesting Bible here. And I've also read the HCSB along with the CSB. My HCSB is currently off to Rex Rebinds to get a brand new cover on it. I'm excited to see that one. And then here's two that I haven't completed. The MEV. I tried to read this a few years ago, and I just could not get into it. I made it to Jeremiah, and I finally just gave up. And also, this is a spiritual warfare Bible. These are getting really difficult to find, especially in the leather softcover. You can still find the MEV in the spiritual warfare hardback, but it's getting a little bit more difficult, and it's getting quite a bit more expensive. And finally, I am currently reading the RSV. And the RSV kind of reminds me of the King James, but it's a little more updated. It does have some these and thous in it. And actually what makes this Bible interesting is it is the first RSV ever printed by Thomas Nelson. So pretty slick, decent little layout. It's got decent paper. You can see this is yellowed and discolored because it's so old. This was printed in 1952. And as you can see, it was gifted to Mama when it was brand new in 1952. So Mama, if this is your Bible and you recognize this, I'll let you claim it. I'll even mail it to you. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on. This is your Nicholsworth.